सहना भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्ततामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः। देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। We'll read from verse number 35. यज्ञात्वा न पुनर्मोहम् एवं यास्यसि पाण्डव येन भूतान्यशेषेण द्रक्ष्यस्यात्मन्यतो मयि। अपि चेतसि पापेभ्यः सर्वेभ्यः पापकृत्तमः सर्वं ज्ञानप्लवेनैव व्रजिनं सन्तरिष्यसि। The teacher here, Krishna, had said, to know the highest truth, tadviddhi pranipadena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. Go to the teacher in whose presence you must submit your ego. Pranipada. And pariprashna, ask questions. Sevaya by seva. Seva at the level of the physical body, and pranipada is in the mind, and prashna in the intellect. Because at the present moment we are all bommais, BMIs. Identified with the BMI, we are what we are. And to overcome this identification with the body, mind, intellect is what is called freedom or moksha. Even when we let go, to that extent we are free. In sleep, you don't identify with your body. Are you not happy? At least others are happy that you went to sleep. The mother is so caught up with work and the child and go on crying. Go to sleep. Somehow you make the child go to sleep. Now I can do my job. The child is also released to that extent. So when we are in the state of dream or sleep, our physical body we so much bothered about, so much bothered and cared about and pampering, that is coming to rest at least next 6-8 hours. Chalo. That is left itself. We don't even care or bother that it's getting old. Otherwise, when you're sleeping, you're getting older faster. 8 hours of getting old. So you are not bothered about the physical body. That those 8 hours when you're in sleep, you have disidentified with your physical body. You're not bothered about that. To that extent, you are free. In the state of dream, you are so identified with your mind in its own happenings and its own creations. Even otherwise, even during the state of waking. And when you go to deep sleep, dreamless sleep, it's called. REM also is not there. What called rapid eye movement is also not there. Deep sleep. Especially when you have gone to India and came back, that sleep that you get, what a sleep it is. Jataloga it's called, not jet lag. It's called Jataloga. The mind also is completely at rest. So when the troubles and agitations of the mind is also at rest for a few hours, Paramashanti. So freedom is where, freedom is not something which you have to get it and somebody has to give it to you. It is where I claim my claim my own liberation, freedom, by consciously or unconsciously. In this case, unconsciously, I am no more identifying with my gross, subtle bodies. So, when the physical body is in service, mind is in obedience, intellect is in curiosity, only to finally realize that I am that what is pointed out by the Shastra and scriptures, the highest truth, Tad. In this verse which we chant, he says, Yajñātvā na punarmoham evam yasyasi Pandava. Having realized that you are not the body, mind, and intellect which you are now identified with, which are all your own misunderstanding, when you realize this, evam moham na aprapsyasi, you will not anymore get deluded by anything that happens there. Yena bhutani asheshena drakshasya atmanyato mayi. Then thereafter you will see yourself as the highest reality in which everything is included. All included in you. Sarva bhutani atmani pashyasi drakshasi. You will see yourself, everything included. The entire universe is none other than in your own bosom, in your own being. Or in me. Meaning, that which is a goal that you wanted to achieve as other external thing to you, when the identification with the body, mind and intellect, deha, buddhi, ahankar, everything is gone, and you will see it that it is you, which is pointed out. And a person says, no, Swamiji, you don't know how many blunders I have committed. I am the most wanted criminal. Api chetasi papebhyah sarvebhyah papakruttamaha. Even if you are the ultimate sinner that everybody wants to kill, sarvam jnanaplavena varjinam santarishyasi. With the boat of knowledge you cross over. Which is to say that we do not... See, how many of you think that for many lives you have been doing only good things? Even in this life you are not sure. So many things of the past accumulated in your personality, not just because of only this birth, but many lives. As a crocodile, as a shark, as a buffalo, as a lion, as a this, so many things you have done. They are all there in our mind, stored very carefully. All that which are accumulated in your own mind, which are potentially to make you a criminal, all that, as let us say, it's ocean. You can never think about crossing it, but with the boat of knowledge, you will cross it. This is an assurance. Krishna says there is a way out. You will cross it. Sarvam jnana plaveneva. So, in this particular verse, the jnanam, the knowledge is referred as a boat. Last session I told you, what is a boat? Boat is that which floats. Plota, it's called. Plota is that which floats, like a wood. Nowadays you have fiberglass and other material. But essentially, that which does not sink in the water. That's why I told you, it is safe if the boat is in the water and not water in the boat. Huh? If it is a water in the boat, you become a holy boat. Meaning there is a hole inside. Water gets in. And once the water gets into the boat is useless. Similarly, knowledge should be pure in the sense, don't commercialize it. Don't make it worldly. Don't make it to make money out of it. That's what people do nowadays. 10 days crash course on meditation. $1,000. You pay $1,000. You will crash also, but not meditation. Knowledge should be made secure in such a way that it does not become a means to make money. Please, can you take this child, please? Everybody pay attention to that. So the boat is that which floats on the water, meaning unaffected by water. It is there in the water, but not sinking in the water. Similarly, this knowledge is that which, in spite of what you have done so far, in spite of who you are right now, it can protect you. That's the nature of the knowledge. Who has not done mistakes? Who has not committed blunders? Every one of us. It is one thing to sit and grieve about it, cry about it, regret about it. Yes, you may feel bad about it, but that doesn't move you forward. I'm feeling very guilty. I'm feeling so bad. And you go on crying. What is the next step? Knowledge provides you a kind of a security there. Yes, you have done. So what? I have a better thing to do now. Giving you a vision about something higher which anyone can achieve, provided let go of the past, let go of yesterday, let go of the yesterday last moment. Move on. And that movement towards something higher will happen only when we have that conviction, inspiration, and vision about what that we need to reach there. So knowledge as such is a chakshu. An eye, jnana chakshu. The eyes that are necessary for us to move forward because I can see things. Knowledge is that which makes you see things clearly. That is why in the next verse it's so beautifully said. It is hidden in all of us. That which we need to achieve is already hidden, and the means to that is also hidden. Only thing is we are not paying attention. He gives a beautiful example for that. You see here. Yataidamsi samidhoknihi basmasat kuruterjuna jnanagni sarva karmani basmasat kurute tada etaidhamsi samidhognihi basmasat kuruterjuna jnanagni sarva karmani Bhasmasat kurute tata. We understand things better by examples. We get inspired by seeing people who are expressing what they have understood. Yatha, just as, idam si, fuel, samidha agnihi, the fire that is there inside the fuel burns. Bhasmasat kurute, Arjuna. Just like the fire hidden in a fuel burns the very thing which has it. It's a very interesting point to note there. As the blazing fire reduces the fuel to ashes. Let us say that there is a wood there. In the past, they used to cook the food with the wood. I don't know how many of you have seen this. How many of you have seen even gas? I doubt nowadays. Everything is sticking. We take it out. You don't see anything. Nothing is hot. You don't put your hand to find if there is hot at all. Nothing. It's all clean. Absolutely no heat. Everything is, what do you call? Microwave. And the food that is, microwave also you will see. Only in the top it is really hot. And you make it, and the inside is very cold. And you take it out and then do it and then put it back again. So there is something called gas stove. How many have seen? Please raise your hand. Gas stove. Thank you. There's a fuel you can really see. The gas turning into become fire. How many of you seen a wooden stove? Of course, you have a fireplace. And that is also nowadays in a fire. No wood at all. You look like wood and you look at it, the wood is not burning. It's all gas. So the wood, when you put it there, it is no doubt a fuel which has the fire within itself. And when you cook it, obviously, whatever is the vessel you put, and then the water and everything gets cooked. But in the process, the fuel becomes ashes. What makes it to become ash? What makes it to become ash? That which is hidden inside. The example is so pertinent here. Krishna says, just like the fuel hidden in the fire hidden in the fuel burns it completely to become ashes. Tata jnana agnihi, the fire of knowledge, sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute. It burns all your past actions. Where is that jnanam then? It is hidden. Within whom? Within each one of us. So when you see a tree which is there in your backyard, it's beautiful, all the leaves and the flowers and all those things. But the trunk part of it is that which has all the stored energy, which makes every leaf to become beautiful. It passes the energy or the fertility of the earth passes on through its trunk, and then it makes the flower and the fruits and the leaves and everything possible. But it's a potential fuel. Right? When the water dries away in the wood, it becomes a fuel. Please note, so long as the water is there, so long is that in touch with the earth, carrying the energy and the water from its roots to the branches and the twigs and then the leaves and everything, it's a living tree. All right. Once the thing is uprooted from the earth, put in the sun for days together, cut into pieces, it's a fuel. What does it mean? When the water is gone, the fire manifests potentially. In the same way, ego in us is that which makes us you as a personality. Good or bad, right or wrong, nice person or a nasty person, whatever you are. All these are all the play of the ego, the water in us. It waters everything. All our thoughts and emotions and feelings and likes and dislikes and prejudices and opinions and all those things are because of the water that is ego in us, in touch with the world, the earth. When the ego in us is completely dried away, that is the work of the Guru. To discover your inner potential, Jnana Agni, which is there, presently unmanifest because of the water element called the ego that is not allowing it to happen. Once the ego is gone, completely dried, that's why we say that with the pranipadena. The surrender is basically to destroy the ego which makes our individuality so strong. I am so and so. My opinion is this. I want this. I don't want this. I like this. I don't like this. I don't like you. I don't like that. This is that ego that survives. Once that ego is dried up, then the teacher's job is almost over. All that he has to do is to little spark of fire, put it there. One little spark of fire, when it is put into the dry wood, what happens? Nobody needs to do anything. We'll start. Process of burning. Then the student realizes, I am burning. My Guru smiled. That's exactly what I wanted. Once the burning starts, it will completely reduce the whole individuality into ashes. Along with the individual goes away all the various karma and karma vasanas one has been carrying. After all, the one who did in the past is the one who is going to experience it now, not anybody else. The soul which was the karta, the doer of the past, is going to be the same soul who is the bhokta, the enjoyer of the result, not anybody else. So long as the kartrutva or I am the doer idea is there, bhoktrutva, the experiencer of that area action, result of action, is there. You understand this point? If I did the action, who will be the recipient of the result? I am only. The external result maybe somebody else may get it because of my action. But the result that are potentially there, which is to be experienced by me, is still being carried by me only. For example, if I have cheated someone, I did something wrong, the world may or may not know. If they know, they punish me externally, else legally they can punish me. But if I am morally wrong, if I have done something wrong which I know, I carry the guilt. I carry that very inner conscience which is constantly pricking with me, and it will continue to be there all the time. You may shut up it with many other ways, but it will be there. At some point of time, it will come out again. So the karta is potentially the bhokta. The doer is the potential enjoyer of that. So how many things we have done in the past which will manifest itself as various experiences, you will never know, you will not even know. At the present moment, if a person realizes, yes, wrong, I did. Whatever I have done was because of the foolishness, mindlessness, stupidity, and because of lack of right knowledge. Now I realize this. Now, after realization, will the result will end? No. But yes. How? No, if you don't do anything. Yes, when you burn that ego. When the ego is burned, the receiver is no more. Gurudev used to give an example. I have told you this before also. It was in the late 80s. Gurudev himself made this illustration, or in this example he gave. It was in the late 80s that I, Swami Chinmayananda, was in Siddhabari, my ashram there, and I was taking rest in the afternoon because I had morning classes and very activities, and evening there are going to be some lectures, so I was taking rest. And some of the devotees and disciples were sitting outside near my kutia, or the building where I was staying, waiting for me to wake up for a cup of tea, and so that they can have some discussion with me, spiritual discussion with me. So they were all waiting, and I was sleeping inside. Suddenly, to the surprise of all the devotees and disciples who have assembled there, police came. And the Himachal Pradesh police came. They came and stopped near the ashram gate, came out. Can we see Swami Chinmayananda, please? So the people there around, they said, Maharaj is taking rest. He will be out in another 35-40 minutes, 4 o'clock. It's only 3:30 now. He will come out in 4 or 4:15, you can wait. So the police were restless because 45 minutes they have to wait. Can somebody wake him up? We have an urgent business with him. So the people are getting offended. What do you mean? So Swami there sitting, and you want a business with him? Wait, he will come out. But they were not ready to listen. They went near the kutia, and then who is in charge here? So one person came out, I am in charge of Swamiji's needs here. Who are you? You are the manager or something? No, I'm just his, sevak. All right. We have to just tell you, nobody else. Ask others to go away. So all of them sent out. Yes, sir, what can you do? I want to see Swami Chinmayananda right now, said the inspector. Sir, it's not possible. He's taking rest. He will come. No. Thing is, I have a warrant. Warrant? For what? Just to tell you, between you and me, somewhat around 40 years back, there was one Balakrishna Menon, criminal, caught up by the British. And he had done so many wrong things, British could not punish him because he got sick and he was thrown away from the jail, and then he went to Himalayas and became a Swami. And we have the record of his criminal activities. We are here to arrest him. The Sevak was alarmed. So therefore, the Sevak said, Sir, I will try to wake him up. Please stay here. The Sevak went inside, but after half an hour also he didn't come. The police became restless. They just opened the door, went inside, only to find that Swami Chinmayananda, AKS, AKA, Balakrishna Menon, was dead. Once the Swami is dead, who was otherwise known as Balakrishna Menon, is dead, warrant has absolutely no use. You cannot arrest a dead person. In front of that Sevak, they took the paper and tore it apart. It's a story, it's not real. Okay, Swami. No, it's just to give an example. Now, once the person is dead, which action will punish him? Physically, the law cannot do anything to a person who is dead. So also, here the ego is the culprit. Once the ego is destroyed, all the past actions will have no effect on that person. That is why he said, Sarva karmani basmasat kurute. All actions will get burnt. Burnt meaning it has become useless. Burnt by what? Jnana Agni. The fire of knowledge burns the ego. It doesn't burn the karma, because karmas they are potentially to give results, but the karmas will have no effect on him where an individual has burned the ego, the doer, and the enjoyer thereof. When that Karta and Bhokta is gone. Now somebody asked Sri Ramana Maharshi, who is a Karta? Who is the doer? Very simply he said, the one who is anxious about the results. Who is an actor? Who is the performer of action? If you are performing an action where you are not anxious about results, that action will not affect you. Where you perform an action with anxiety, that very anxiety shows you are Karta. Because you are want the result. It result may be something somebody praises you from outside, or you yourself feeling the fulfillment of that pride of doing it. Hiding it. That is why when we give you a work, you have as a volunteer absolutely no anxiety at all. Because you don't want to do it. That's one thing. Not that you become so I want. Swamiji, aham na karta. Not that. No anxiety at all. It's not that. So he who has the anxiety over the result is the karta. Not the action makes you an actor. Action doesn't make you an actor. Action is a physical activity that is going on. Who actually is behind that action? Who is anxious about the result? That anxious individual is the karta, and that very karta, the doer, is the one who is going to experience the result. If an individual is able to engage in an action with no anxiety, Gurudev always put no anxiety in the result. No anxiety even to perform, I have to do it. That is also not. Get it done. To the best of one's possibility. The anxiety is not there, the enjoyer is not there, the karta is not there. So, in the case of a person in whom the ego is gone, does he not do anything anymore? He will do, but no anxiety at all. So, therefore, jnanagni dakta karmanam basmasat kurute tata. Just like the fuel hidden, the fire hidden in the fuel, once it starts manifesting, it completely burns the wood into ashes. So also the right knowledge that is present in an individual burns the entire ego and ego-related all actions into a dust. But then, how does he survive? There are three actions one must understand. Those actions of the past which are still to be manifest, which are called sanchita karma. Sanchita means collected. Those actions of the past for which the results is already in manifestation, which is our physical body as an entity, it's called prarabdha. And those actions you are yet to do, agami. The knowledge burns all the collected actions and the future action that you are yet to perform. And the actions that have already started giving the results in the form of your own physical body and whatever situation you are yet to meet until the death of your body, that will continue. But while even it is continuing, the individual lives without any anxiety anymore. It is like a person who is taking a bow and arrow and then putting the arrow into the bow and then releasing that to a target. Once the bow has released the arrow has started traveling towards the target. You cannot change anything there. It has to hit the target. The way you have aimed, with what speed you have aimed, how fast it is going, once it is released from your bow, there is no more you can do anything about it. In the same way, an individual who has thus understood the nature of things, his ego having been burnt, along with all actions of the past have been burnt, and having realized his higher nature, therefore the anxiety about the future results not there. whatever he is thus already started in his life, he will have great acceptance and calmness and no anxiety about it. That is in Prarabdha now, on his own. Now, once that arrow has started, no, you cannot do anything. That understanding is that I cannot do anything. It goes on. Okay. Let it go on. Even you become anxious, you cannot stop it. You getting old, physical body getting old. What do you do? Stop it. Try. Externally you can appear. But next year you become one more year old. You know that. And therefore every birthday what you should do? Congratulations for getting old. That fellow may not like it. Because that is something which you cannot stop it. Isn't it? Physical body, because it's on its own way. It's a nature. It is a prakriti. You cannot stop it. Seasons change. You cannot stop it. Body grows. You cannot stop it. And you realize that all my actions of the past, which have already started fructifying, giving to manifestation, it will continue. But what I can overcome by correct understanding is the actions of the past which is not yet manifesting, meaning potentially to give me further births, and what I am going to meet now. This is also burnt. Why? Because now I understood. I am not an individual here. I am that Supreme Self, the Paramatma, who happened to be lodged in this physical body. Therefore, by nature I am pure existence, consciousness, bliss and immortal, joyful immortal self. Nothing can disturb my joy. No actions of anybody in the present around me, none of my actions can ever hamper my own bliss. This realization gives an individual a great amount of joy and contentment. And identity with the body, mind, intellect will also come to an end, because it is not me. I have it, I am not that. Therefore, that's why Krishna says, just like a wood or any fuel, the fire within gets it completely burned, so also the correct knowledge burns all actions. Yataidamsi samiddhognihi basmasat kurute arjuna jnanagni dagda karmani, dagda burnt, jnanagni dagda karmani, jnanagni sarva karmani, basmasat kurute tatha. So where the individual finds it that, anything you want to announce? Yeah? No, you're standing there, so I thought that you were. So thus, it's interesting. I told you about Gurudev, about his, the story which he said about himself. The movie we are bringing in. So you might have seen the display outside. I will tell you about it a little later. Now, this knowledge which gives you that immunity to everything is a drishti. It's a vision. And therefore, there is nothing you can compare to the knowledge. It has a class apart than anything else in this world. So Krishna highlighting the knowledge, not about the knowledge about the things in the world, but know thyself. Knowing oneself is the highest knowledge of all knowledges. Therefore, he says in the verse number 38 here, Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha कालेनात्मनि विन्दति न हि ज्ञानेन सदृशं पवित्रम् इह विद्यते तत्स्वयं योगसंसिद्धः कालेनात्मनि विन्दति. Literal translation of this verse is, iha, in this word, jnanena sadrisham, equal to knowledge, pavitram na vindate, na vidyate, sorry, na vidyate, not known. Pavitram, divine, pure. The pure, anything pure is here seen ever compared to knowledge. Knowledge is that which really gives not only clarity but also necessarily the purity. Nahi jnanena sadrisham, equal to knowledge, pavitram na vidyate. There is nothing that is more divine. Second line it says, yoga tat swayam yoga samsiddha. That one, that knowledge, swayam yoga samsiddha, yogena samsiddha. He, the one who gained this through correct means, kalena atmani vindati, in due course of time discovers himself. Now why knowledge is called a drishti? When a person is asked to do any action, any activity, without telling him why he should do, he will not be able to accomplish much. He may do or she may do what you want him to or her to do, but there is nothing that person gains out of that. Is it not true? I ask that person to do a thing. He may do it. But why he has to do it, if that is not given to knowledge, good understanding, it is just because you are telling me I am doing, then neither he gains anything, nor you taught anything to him. On the other hand, along with the action, you tell that person why he has to do that action. Essentially, if for that person's own self-growth, then there is a marked improvement in this person every time he or she engages in that action. Not only that, later you don't need to tell, he will do it. Because once that person finds out how he or she is benefiting out of that, then you don't need to tell. Because once he starts enjoying the benefit out of that, then naturally that person is inclined to do that. If somebody says, every day you have to do exercise, every day you have to do the workout, because aap dekh rahe hain that I am doing it. And no intention of his own. Whereas that individual has understood, me doing it is for my own growth, my own health, then you don't need to tell that person to do it. He'll do it. So what makes it marked difference is not the action, but the vision. So sadrisha, a commentator beautifully puts the point. Sadrisha means drishti, the vision. The knowledge is a vision, therefore. And this particular knowledge which Krishna is trying to impart is not only just a knowledge, it is pavitram. It is divine. I often give this example to people. Let us say that you have a beautiful Krishna idol in your own home. As soon as you enter the home, the first one in the very living room itself, you have rooms, living room, bedroom, bedroom, no, living room. In the living room, you have a beautiful standing Krishna with the flute. Nicely, beautifully, carved in wood, height, let's say some 2 feet, 3 feet, kept there. And you put a lamp near there. because it's your Ishtadevata, favorite deity, and you have put a small flower, little flower, and a lamp there, agarbatti, whatever. And you have invited some people to your home, and one of them or few of them are, let us say, not from our culture, let's say some Americans are also there, who had this, I got an idea about what this is all about. Come. As soon as he can, hi, wow, how are you? Who is this guy? Who's this guy? Maybe the Krishna has a guy next to it. Oh, that is a guy, correct. No. What? That's a cow. This is a guy. Now, for that person, the drishti is not there. You understand this? He sees with the eyes, not with the mind. Not with the knowledge, sorry. Mind also is there. He understands the beauty of that beautiful sculpture, but knowledge is not there. What is the knowledge that he doesn't have? He knows that it's a wood. He knows it's a sculpture. But what he does not know is, it's a divinity. It is something which you worship, you regard, you respect. It's not just a wooden piece. So therefore, what is that knowledge? It is that which gives you a vision of something which is hidden. What is evident is the wood. What is evident is the sculpture. What is not evident is the divinity. So what material knowledge can give us is only an external idea about things. But as you go deeper and deeper, what is hidden becomes manifest. That is why jnanam is pavitram. So now you see, Bhagavan Krishna calls knowledge as, anything that leads you to the final destination is knowledge. At the beginning level, it is a basic understanding of things. Like for example, in the 18th chapter in Gita, Krishna says, this world will be better if everybody does his own work. That's a simple statement. Of course, very difficult for us to even follow that. If everyone does his or her own work, then there's no problem at all. Sve sve karmani apirataha siddhim vindati manavaha. Sve sve karmani apirataha. If they are all engaged in their own activities, then everybody gets what they want. But why we are not able to become content with what we do is our eyes are on something else. If he gets it, that, why should I not? That's why he says, according to your swabhava, so should be your action. So in the basic premise of knowledge is that making you understand what you are capable of. That's a basic knowledge. Talking about a Brahmana, I say, Shamo Dama Tapastirtam. Shama, Damaha, Tapaha, Shaucham, Arjavam. So, Shamo, Tapas, Shaucham. These are all considered as Brahmana's qualities. Jnanam, Vijnanam, Astikyam, Brahma Karma Swabhavajam. Jnanam, Vijnanam, Astikyam. Knowledge, wisdom, faith. These are considered as the basic qualification of a Brahmana. Here again, Brahmana does not mean the threaded variety. Not because you are born to a Brahmin doesn't mean that you are Brahmin. Shamaha, control over the mind. Damaha, control or mastery over the senses. Tapaha, austerity. Shaucham, purity. Kshanti, forgiveness. Arjavam, straightforwardness. These 6 if you have, that itself is knowledge. In 13th chapter, he gives 20 values. Amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, kshanti, arjavam, acharyopasanam, shaucham, stairyam, atmavinigraha, indriyarteshu vairagyam, Your children are learning. Please go and ask them about it, please. Now you may not know it. Last week they showed what is amanitvam, and humility, and then absence of cruelty, and all those things. This etad jnanamidi proktam, Krishna says, this is knowledge. Ajnanam yatatonyata. Other than that, everything is ajnanam, ignorance. Opposite of that is ignorance. So, basic knowledge is the basic values necessary for you to become successful in any field that you are in. And if you are engaged in Brahmana karma, meaning where study of scriptures, swadhyaya, pravachanam, study of scriptures, guiding the humanity in the right direction with respect to spiritual goals, etc., then you are doing the Brahmana karma, turning people into worshippers of God, enabling them to do those things. This is the field that is given to a Brahmana, and therefore such a person should have shama, dama, tapaha, shaucham, and shanti, arjavam, jnanam, vijnanam, astikyam. Mastery over the mind, mastery over the senses, etc., which I told you. Shauryam, tejaha, dhritihi, shauryam, virata, heroism. Tejaha, boldness. Dhritihi, fortitude. Yuddhecha apalayanam, not running away from the field of activity. These are all Kshatriya dharma. So, therefore, in each field where you want to achieve, there are qualifications necessary, not because you are born to that particular Kshatriya family, but you must have these qualities. Then only you can succeed there. So, this is called jnana. But Shankaracharya says there is one more level, is tajnanam prashamakaram yadindriyanam tajneyam yadupanishtu nichidartam. Knowledge in the next level is where, because of which presence, you are naturally quiet and able to understand the scriptures clearly. That is jnana. And here Bhagavan Krishna brings knowledge to the next level. He says that having known which, you will realize God in you. Tatvayam yoga samsiddha kalena atmani vindati. You having gained the highest knowledge, therefore thereafter you will not see yourself different from the absolute truth or God. You will see it in yourself. That's what he says. Yajñātvā na punormoham evam yasyasi pandava yena bhutani asheshena drakshyasi atmanyatomayi. Then you will see yourself, in yourself, all beings included, meaning you yourself see yourself akin to the Lord, in whom everything is included. Therefore, there is nothing comparable to knowledge. You distinctly find people who are educated versus those who are not educated. Not physical mannerism is one thing, but also the language that they use, how they speak, everything will distinguish that. But what we find is mere material knowledge, knowing about this particular field, that particular field, it may bring certain amount of sophistication in your personality, but does not change your inner nature that easily. If you are an angry person, if you are an arrogant person, if you are an egoistic person, just because you know law, just because you know management, just because you know software, that doesn't go away. You become an arrogant lawyer, egoistic businessman, so the ego and arrogance will continue, so irrespective of what your intellectual knowledge is. Isn't that true? There are enough doctors who are drunkards, addicts. How? Don't they have the knowledge that it is not good for them? Knowingly, happily they will do it. Other person unhappily, he does not know that he will do it. So So this, because one has mere material knowledge, does not assure that that person will change. Intellectually he may know everything, but it doesn't change that person. But Krishna here is not talking about this material knowledge of the world. He says this knowledge which you gain from the teacher by submitting your ego, because of which you will find the God residing within yourself. That is the jnana which I am talking about, which is incomparable. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram miha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalenatmani vindati. So we will see more of this in the next session. All right. Om sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhat bhavet. Om shanti 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 harihi om. Shri Gurubhyo namaha. Harihi om.